All right, what I want to do in this video is to provide a broad overview of what I want to accomplish in the next, XYZ months, or at least what I want to accomplish in this show. There are three things, really. The first is I want to capture a particular spirit. The second is that I want to defend the West, and then the third is that I want to do it for my own sake, for my own being. So, first, I want to capture a spirit, which maybe I'm not actually conveying it right now, but is a spirit of greatness and a fervency and a fervor for life, a lust for life, as it were. Life is so big and so beautiful and can be so beautiful. We can make poetry from the prose of life. Life gives us these bare facts and bare material in which exist inherently no meaning, no purpose, but in which we can inject unlimited meaning and purpose and beauty and joy. Humans have the capacity to make meaning, to make beauty, to make things glorious and romantic, and to beautify our lives. Just as you can decorate a home beautifully or poorly or not at all, so too we can decorate almost the style of our collective soul in society. We can make society, we can make our lives, we can make our culture, our way of doing things more beautiful. And I want to see this spirit. I want to see men animated by a lust for life, by a fervency for life, by a striving, by a reaching, by an attaining. I want to see people on fire for life. This is, I think, becoming to humans and us as life forms. We are life forms. We are things that will to exist, that will to grow, to expand, to ascend in a way. And life should be lived with great passion. Boldly, with courage and with strength making that courage easier. I mean, here is life, and you have one of it. You're going to be dead in 50 years. I want to see men on fire, with lightning shooting through their bones, excited for life. Beyond teaching any particular thing, there are so many people who are better educated on philosophy and history than I am. But what I want to do is to provide a spirit, an infectious spirit around these things, to animate us with greater passion, to live with greater intensity, to burn more brightly. That's what I want. I think that is perhaps maybe what I can provide as my differentiation, or as one of it, is to infect you with a greater spirit and a greater vitality and a greater excitement for life. When you hear people speak of Nietzsche or these other great philosophers, how can you speak about them? Do you really understand them? Can you really speak about them if you yourself are not vitalist, if you yourself are not excited by life, if you are yourself not abundantly joyful? Joy is irrefutable. Joy is the greatest proof of your work. Don't tell me that you are wise if you are unhappy. Don't tell me that you are wise and erudite and educated if your life is misery, if your being, if your person is of low quality, if you're not someone that I want to be like. You are the living proof. Show me how great life is to you. Show me how on fire you are for life. Show me that life lives loudly in you. Or else, be quiet. Be quiet. So I want to capture this spirit. I want to capture this romanticism. That's my first goal. The second goal is to defend the West. I naturally want to defend the West as an extension of defending myself, because I view myself as a participant in the West, as one who is the West, in whom the West exists and who represents the West in part. And the arguments that I have seen, at least, in the defense of the West online are atrocious. Maybe not atrocious, but I think are very weak. For a multitude of reasons. One, they think they focus on the wrong level of analysis. Like if you look at immigration or transgenderism, the arguments that are offered against these things are exceedingly superficial and naive and univariate, when the real answer and the real argument that I think is much, much more powerful is passed over in silence. I don't know if it's because they're unaware of it or what the reasoning might be, but there are arguments to be given that are many layers deeper and more important around epistemology, around anthropology, around ontology, around the nature of rights and privilege, that have been completely unarticulated, that I think can and should be articulated, and that I think I can articulate. So I'd love to be able to provide those articulations, those defenses, but beyond mere articulation of a defense and a mere apologetics, I want to go beyond that and provide a positive theory of life. Oh no, did that die? I want to provide a positive theory of life. I don't want to just defend the West from a perpetual onslaught of attack. I want to go on offense. I want to provide my own positive theory of life, of what these things are about, so that we don't just have to react and defend and come across as hateful and say, no, 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 while we continually shift to the left or shift against whatever direction we want to go. That's not a winning strategy. I care too much about my life to not want to win. And how can we win if we don't ever go on offense? How can you ever go on offense if you don't have a positive vision, a positive goal, a basket or a net to shoot at, to aim at, to work toward? How can you ever say that you're making progress if you don't have that defined? So I want to defend the West, but again, not merely just by saying, yeah, we're great, we provided X, Y, Z. These things are true, yes. But the best way to defend the West, the best way for the West to continue to live and to exist, is for us to animate it with a living spirit and a lifeblood. The West needs a heart transplant. It's reeling after the death of God, searching for itself, searching for its own justification. This is, I think, largely what woke represents, which is a rot on the body of Christ. God died. There was a vacuum that was left from it, and woke, I don't think, filled it. You need to be something positive in order to fill a vacuum. Woke is, I think, just the articulation of the negative space. Woke says that we don't know what is good and we don't know what is true. One of the byproducts of a postmodern position. And so consequently, we're going to say that everything's good and true. And this is really the intellectual justification for most of the modern conceptions of progress, and is also the reason that equality, inclusion, and tolerance have become amplified of late and are now the truly dominant values in our culture. We need a positive theory of life. We need a positive theory of what is good, a positive philosophy of what the West should be and should aim at, a new paradigm of progress, a new paradigm of being for the West. And so I'd like to be able to provide that too. And then the third part is just around for my own being. The third reason I'm doing this is just for my own sake. At the end of the day, I think very few people will listen to this for a long time, but there is immense value in this for me, not only in practicing rhetoric and articulating these things, but also just being able to speak about them. I have within me this urge, this drive, this desire. Nietzsche and Schopenhauer would say this will to exist and to be, which consists in part in expelling from me this spirit, this energy that's within me, to let it overflow from within me into others. I want to do it for my own sake, not in a selfish way, but in a selfful way, in a moral and humble and I suppose just a simple prioritization of myself, of caring about myself first and doing it for my own sake, just being. And so I suppose the last things that I want to mention is to talk about the ascent of man, which is, at least right now, what I see as the purpose and maybe the great story of man, is that out of the oceans we rose and ascended onto land, and from land we ascended into the skies, and from the skies into the stars, and now we're on the precipice of habituating, or making rather habitats out of the planets and the stars. Here's a great arc of ascent in which we can firmly locate ourselves. Here's this great story of man as life form, striving as this almost angelic type of life form, one that has, through consciousness, been able to look at itself and look at reality. Here's this great, compelling, beautiful story that mirrors your own life, your own ascent, that the macroscopic ascent of man mirrors your own macroscopic ascent from zygote to kid, to adolescent, to adult, and beyond, and not just around the physical aging, but also just the ascent of your being and your own soul. That your ascent and humanity's ascent are one and the same, that you are aligned with it, that you participate in it, that with every inch or ounce or whatever that you ascend, you are taking humanity higher as well. What a beautiful way. What a beautiful operating system and model for us to operate on. So, there are, of course, a million ways to articulate that and 1,000 premises that are unstated there that I need to expand on at some point. But yeah, in the beginning, I'm going to be speaking mostly just about, I think, the spirit and the romantic style of life that I want to see. It'll be done daily, almost part of my daily bread, I suppose, for my own sake. But then also to find better expression and articulation of these things that I'm trying to say, because still much of it is still opaque to me. It's hard to know precisely what I want to say because there are so many factors involved. I'm trying to speak deeply about myself and reality and sociopolitics and philosophy, and there's a lot to say, and I have so many thoughts. I have over 3,000 pages of notes in Obsidian that I've been organizing and developing and want to continue to develop. So there's a lot that I'm trying to wrestle with and trying to organize into a comprehensible form. And really, I think over time, as I write the 3 books that I'm working on, this nebulous cloud of the spirit will eventually take shape and take form in precise form, obviously in the form of books, but then also videos. And over time, I'll begin to speak not only personally, but politically as well. But ultimately, in order to speak personally, you have to also speak politically. And to speak politically, you have to speak personally. Because the person participates in the political, and the political informs and can form the personal. So to speak about one, you must speak about the other. And to speak about either is to inherently speak about the other. So the 3 books that I'm writing are Moral Realism, in which I develop a moral theory, and really more of a general theory about life, a positive theory about life that can then inform all of my other books. And then the second is Pride and Privilege, which is basically the application of moral realism to people at the individual and personal level, in particular, those people who I think have been unjustly vilified their whole lives, young men, basically along the vertices of straight, white men, all of those verticals that have been cast as oppressors, as evil, and continue to be vilified in many ways, or treated in the background of our cultural narrative as the bad guys that must be attacked, removed, their goods redistributed, what have you. I think the basis for this is based on a misinterpretation and a misunderstanding of the nature of life and of reality. And then, so Pride and Privilege is in a lot of ways the justification of privilege and the consequent revivification of our people, to have pride in who and what we are, so that we may continue to exist and continue to grow and expand. And then the third is broadly a manifesto, I suppose you could say. I'm provisionally calling it The Ascent of Man, in which I want to provide a greater articulation of this narrative, of this paradigm of progress, of man's ascent, and of the glory and the beauty in it, and how it can organize society and can organize our lives, and to provide a positive vision that we can collectively work toward. And likely after that, I think it will then lead into a type of movement. It's unclear of what type exactly. If it's purely moral or socio-political or communal. I think I'd like to build in addition to speak. But there's so much that I need to learn first and crystallize first that it's hard to think too far ahead. All I know is that there are so many questions that I've had about life that I want to answer, that I want to give expression and articulation to, and to better just understand and organize in my own mind. And after that, by its very nature, things will become clearer. So that's my plan. That's my hope with this. I don't want all of my future videos to be as long as this has been. I created like 3 videos before this, but I suppose the last thing that I'll leave with is just a rearticulation and a recapitulation of the Spirit. I'm a little tired right now, so it's not maybe as on the forefront. But life is beautiful. Life is this great adventure. We're given X number of decades to live a big, beautiful life. And what I will for is your good. What I will for is a big, beautiful life for you. To see you excited to wake up. To see you excited to go to bed because you can't wait for tomorrow. That's what I will for you. That's what I will for me. And naturally, in general, we tend to just paint our psychology and paint ourselves on other people. And what I will for is for me to become a good, great, beautiful person, so that when I do extend myself onto others, and when I do paint myself onto others, I paint them with love and with beauty and with joy. Again, not in some sense that like I need to live for other people. I live for myself, but in that as I live for myself and as I go through life, I love to see others succeed. I love to see them prosper. I love to see them flourish. I love to see it in itself, and it also has a byproduct, a consequence of it. Then makes me happier. How are you not going to be happier if you see everyone else being happier, more joyful? You then reset the cultural style to be greater, to be more beautiful. So this is what I want. This is, I think, just part of a big, beautiful life that I want, is to speak about these things, see these things, to give love to other people. Not in some cliche, naive way, but in a grounded, realist way of understanding who and what we are. And that this is one of the great means by which we can beautify our lives. So I suppose that's all I have to say, at least for today. Lord knows there will be more tomorrow.